And man, I always enjoy whenever I look back on your career because you were a dude that was here pre-Goon era and then post-Goons. You feel me? Like, you were a part of the movement, man. So if you could, just talk about the old line and the culture that you've been a part of when it was viewed very differently when you first got here, '09 up until 13. Then 14 on the way to 18, y'all are the best in the league. What is that dynamic like for you, man?
Man, in those first like 2, 3, maybe even 4 years, man, it was a different style of ball. It was, hey, let's go on here and beat the heck out of everybody type of ball.
Yeah.
It was, look, go fight. Like literally at times, go fight and stir up some stuff. Like I played with dudes, and you've been around them, Willie Cologne,
Oh yeah,
Max
Willie Big
Stars,
Max, yeah.
man, Chris Kimoatu, like those guys that wanted to just beat people up. And the game started to change a little bit in a sense. And one, they wanted to get younger. I think they saw something in us. But I will say this. The DNA of what we became when Coach Tomlin started labeling us as goons was from those guys, from Willie.
Yeah,
and I got to give Willie a lot of the credit, just being a verbal, vocal, and show you type of leader. And I would also throw Chris Kimoatu, Juicy, in there too, is what we called him. You remember Juice? Juice is what we call, because they played a certain type of ball and they set a tone that, look, man, go punch somebody in the daggone mouth. That was the whole mindset of it. So when we started to grow up, and we took our lumps too, because Max ended up leaving, Trey Essex was gone.
Shout out to Trey,
shout out to Trey, who's doing what we do now too. Trey was gone. By the way, 2-time Super Bowl winning champ.
No, hey, put some respect on the rings, bro. They look good.
Oh yeah, they look good on them, man. Him and then Willie, I think, was like one of the last ones of that tenure to go. And so from that point right there, when they're out, you got a young myself, young Marquise. Jonathan Scott was with us for a little while, and we just had to grow up. And being real with you, we were in a situation, man, where we had to go trial by fire because we were playing young. And then we got to the point to where we just said, no, this is not what we're going to do. We're not going to take this.
Hey, don't take it.
And then practice. You feel me?
Don't take it.
And most, you know this, like Coach Tomlin made practice hard. They made camp hard, and then he made us go out front in all of that. He pitted us against each other as far as the offense and the defense. 9-on-7 was about as real as he got. 1-on-1 was about as real as he got. And then it just somewhat morphed into y'all growing up. And when we started to get like light days, he started pulling us back in camp or practice and stuff. That's when the goon persona came about, and it really was. beat them growing up. Like, I think they recognized behind the scene, now that I think about it, we got a shot.
Yeah.
And it wasn't going to go anywhere if we couldn't hold our own up front.
Yeah.
And that's where that goon mantra came into it, because they were trying to protect Ben as far as the amount of hits he took. And we took that personal too, right? And because of that, he got a weird way of making you run through a wall, Coach Tomlin does.
Facts.
And when he threw that label on us, and you know it, most, he said it every day.
Mm-hmm.
He put it in the public, and he somewhat put that pressure on us to live up to it. And then it became one of those things where playing on the O-line became cool. So we made it cool by whooping folks' butt.
Facts.
Big
facts. Hey, look, and y'all was all drippy too. I was like, yo, y'all the swaggiest old lineman. Our vases, tape, spat. I'm like, bro, what type of old lineman is y'all, bro?
Wearing mostly black socks. We were breaking NFL
I'm like, what is this?
Codes. Yeah. But I'll tell you this though too. How we got to that point was we challenged each other though, most.
Yeah.
Like, if we had somebody that had a weight issue or had a bad play or wasn't doing the whole in their own, nobody felt slighted if you got challenged. And you've been around us when it was Alejandro, or whether that was Beach or whoever it was. Like, we were able to go at each other because, one, we were growing up together, but two, we smelt what playing good felt like. So if you weren't holding up your end, especially the young guys after us, you was going to have to hear it. Or it was one of those things, too, most to where, let's say if I had a bad play, use me for instance, I'm over there sulking because, man, I can't believe I gave up a sack to him. Pounce look at me like, Mom, hey, Alpha, that type of stuff happened. Let's move on. Yeah. And I'd be like, all right, okay, cool, let's go. Yeah, it was that type of back and forth that you were just like, okay, keep the main thing the main thing.
Right.
And we grew up together, man, had kids, got married. You know what I'm saying? Like guys like had tragic things happen during that time.
Yeah.
And we all surrounded, like it was a real live team brotherhood and still
big
is
facts.
to this day.
Big facts.
Now, piggybacking off that a little bit, what was your take with the Steeler Way conversation that was happening like in the middle of the season? Like you were talking about the offensive line, how you had guys beforehand kind of like teach you got, you, Pouncey, DeCastro, how things were done. Do you feel like there is something missing with this current squad?
Unity and growth together. And here's the thing too. However I explain what I'm about to say, I'm not in those guys' meetings, locker room, or in their text threads. You know how those go,
Yes.
right? But here's the thing though. One thing I will say is, and I'm glad it happened this way, and I'm glad our careers played out how they were. But I know for a fact, Seven was adamant about trying to getting our group a ring. And when you have myself that make it to a year 11, and Pounce make it to year 11, and then Dave's, retire, and then Al is gone. You got to give Kev and Omar credit for trying to build it back up to where it's sustainable. So they went through draft, tried to really quick, and then they went with free agent. We're trying to get Mason Cole and James Daniels signed, right? And what you have there is you're forcing people inside of a room that's got to somewhat figure it out on the fly with the new offensive line coach. And that ain't no knock, but O-line is one of those positions. If you have the grace to grow from the inside out, meaning you draft your guys, you develop your guys, then you have the ability to set a standard for what your level of play and expectation is. Like you are a Steeler when you grow up that type of way. And that's not to knock anybody else, but it was somewhat hurried up because you didn't have the grace of having a veteran quarterback no more either. There's a lot that goes into having the ability to be your dudes. Like look at Dallas. Dallas guys are all homegrown. Like we're talking about a team right now in Detroit, right? That's been the laughingstock for the last 20 plus years. And you know what they did when they got Dan Campbell? They went and got Panay Sewell. And then they went and got other guys on that offensive line. Then they got defensive line. Like that type of stuff right there is how you get away. When you mention the Steelers way, now they got a Lions way. Now this is the Cowboys way with how they build their O-line. And when you build it through free agency, sometimes you don't get the grace of watching guys grow and having the same system under them to where they're all on the same page. Like it'd be times where in the early parts of us growing up with me, Marquise, and let's go Dave and Gilbert, because all of us was there before, Al and others. Like we would over communicate. And then it came to a point to where we ain't even say nothing. You can't get that when a guy sometimes when multiple guys are coming from different systems like that fast. That's the difference.